Hello, it's me, Miss Reed, and I'm here to talk to you today about guided reading and what our reading vipers are. Now, when you do our guided reading work, you'll often see on there that it asks you to use your reading vipers or your vipers to help you answer these questions. We're going to chat them through now so that you know what they are and what sort of questions you might be asked. So, the vipers themselves. V stands for vocabulary, I stands for inference, P stands for prediction, E stands for explain or explanation, R stands for retrieve or retrieval, you may see, and S is summarise, and sometimes it's used also to mean sequence. Those are our VIPERS skills. We're going to go a bit more into depth with what each of those things means now. But when we say vipers, these are the ones we're talking about. Vocabulary. The words used in the text and their meanings. When we're talking about vocabulary, these are things you'll find in your dictionary, the actual words themselves and what they mean. Here are some of the questions that you could be asked. What does this word mean? Can you find a word that means this? What is a synonym for this word? What is the opposite of this word? Now, this isn't all the questions that you could be asked in regards to vocabulary, but these are the ones you'll most likely find. What do these words mean? Could you please define this word? Giving it a definition is just another way of saying the meaning of the word. You use a dictionary to find definitions. If you're ever stuck on a word or worried about your vocabulary, use a dictionary or a thesaurus to help you find different versions of those words, such as synonyms. Inference is the I from vipers. Inference is reading between the lines, working something out using the information given. It's not the literal meaning of the words in the text. Sometimes you'll get a sentence that you find a little bit confusing, and you'll go back and read it again to find out the meaning. Things such as idioms or turns of phrase or colloquialisms might be hard to infer from unless you already know the meaning of them. But that's okay. Usually we'll discuss those in lessons, or you can find someone to talk to about them. Such as, people sometimes say, that's like the pot calling the kettle black. This is an example of an idiom. We'd need to use our inference skills to work out what someone was meaning in that case. Some examples of questions used when we're talking about inference are, when the main character says this, what do they mean? For example, if a main character said, oh, I'm feeling really upset that thingy did this, what do they mean? We go, oh, I think maybe they're feeling upset, they're going to go and tell off that person. That would be using your inference skills to explain what you know and your knowledge. How do we know they feel that way? Again, you use your vocabulary skill here to help you as well. Lots of our vipers have crossover. Where is this character? We can usually find that as a word in the text, but sometimes you might not be able to find that or retrieve it from the text. Instead, what you'd need to do is infer from their surroundings, or maybe the description, what's happening. So all of these depend on what's happening in the book to make them an inference question, or whatever text you're reading. What type of character are they? Again, you can explain those in different ways. With inference, it doesn't often occur in non-fiction texts. It's much more likely to be in a fictional text. In non-fiction texts, we use retrieval a lot more because a lot of the information given is fact, rather than opinion or an author's voice. Let's see a bit further. Prediction is our next one. When we predict, we use the information that has been given to us to guess what will happen next. We call this in class an informed guess, and we use our reasoning to work out what's happening. So if somebody has predicted that, oh, I think because this person went here, another person went there, we're having to explain our answer and use our inference to work out how we get to that point. These questions say, and there's some examples of questions you might be asked, what will happen next? We know this has happened. What are the consequences? So you can use what you know to predict the consequences. If this happens, how will this character feel or react? That's us making an informed guess about what could happen next. Explain. The E is for explain. When we use our reasoning skills to answer a question, we usually use because. That's us explaining how we know something. Sharing opinions is very important when we're reading because it shows how we're thinking and what we understand. This skill is used for most questions and it's really important when we're making inference. We should be able to explain why we think something, how we know something, and where we've learned that from, using our own prior knowledge, things we've learned before, and what is available in the text. So you're saying, I know this because in the text it says this, or I know this because I know that this piece of vocabulary means that. Explaining is really important because A, it helps you know that you're doing the right thing, and B, it helps teachers know what you do and don't understand and what you might need help with. Okay, so when you're explaining your reasoning, that's a big part of your reading. Retrieval. We use retrieval mostly in non-fiction texts, but you will be asked to use it in fictional text too, in order to help you find keywords or key pieces of information or skills. There's loads of different types of questions here, because in this case, it's very literal. It doesn't want you to make something up. It doesn't want you to add any other information. It's asking you to look directly at the text, like straight on, and grab those pieces of information straight out. You might want to highlight, you might want to underline. You can do that and quote them in sentences. So a quote is when you take something straight from the text without changing it. That's a direct quote. An indirect quote is when you take something from the text and change it or add it into a sentence to make it make sense or to answer a question usually. So for example, in these questions it says, what date did this happen? I imagine I'd read through the text and I'd find the date because it will ask me what had happened. So the Great Fire of London was in, and then I would find that date and I would put it in. Where are they now? Again, we had this one earlier for inference. You might need to infer if there's not a lot of information. If there is a lot of information, you won't need to infer. You will just use the information that's already there. If it says, they're in Paris, Paris is what you're inferring, not inferring, retrieving from there, okay? What colour is their hair? It will say in the text if it's retrieval. Find 3 adjectives. Again, use what's already there. Use your prior knowledge to explain your answer if you're stuck. Who are the character's siblings? They'd be written in the text. How did they do that? Again, there's more questions than this could be asked, but these are some really good examples for you to be able to find things from the text when you're retrieving. S is for summarise or sequence. Abbreviate the information given in your own words. That's being able to reorder events if you're doing sequencing. So if you're summarising, you're taking all the information you've been given, you're putting it in your own words, and usually you're making it a lot shorter. So if I'm saying, how could you summarise the previous chapter? I'd want to make it really short and really small and put it all together so that it's really easy to explain to someone quite quickly. I could say, I just read all of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It's a story about a lion, a witch and a wardrobe. That's me summarising it. It wasn't a very good summary because I didn't add any detail or explain what happened. Again, when you're summarising, it's good to explain, but keep it short, not too intense. Describe the main character in your own words. You could do this again by taking the information you already know and putting it all together. What happened first? Now this is summarising. If I'm thinking about the order things happened in a book or a story, or in a non-fiction text where I'm taking an information, my example, my introduction, and my conclusion, those will all come in an order. There's a sequence to those events. You can explain that and reorganise paragraphs in text quite easily, and even sentences to some extent. What happened to whilst was here? So you could say, I remember that part of the story, and then summarise it. That's a really nice way of quickly explaining something that somebody has missed. For example, if you missed in a guided reading lesson and somebody's come back to you and gone, oh, that's what we did, that's them summarising all the things that have happened that you've missed really quickly. Okay? Our VIPERS skills are very, very important, and we will use them in all of our guided reading lessons. Anytime you're reading, in fact, you are using these skills. Make sure that you focus on what you're learning, what you're thinking, and when people ask these questions, know that these are skills you already have and have been using. Don't panic, take your time, take a deep breath, think about it. Usually the text will give you all the information you need, and you just need a bit of an explanation to explain either why you're stuck or how you got to your answer. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps you when you're coming to do your reading. All the best.